Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of Monday, April 11th, 2022. We are called to order. Would all rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, we have approval of the agenda. Everybody has the agenda in front of them. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved as distributed. Approval of the minutes. The minutes begin on page 7 of the packet. Are there any suggestions for correction or revision? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved.
Madam Chair, I might suggest, I know we had an open house, or DOT had an open house related to the public hearing that's coming up, and maybe they had a couple people arrive late, so if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can do visitors' comments and consent agenda, and then come back to the public hearing. As long as we provided notice appropriately, which DOT provided notice as a part of their activity, this should be just fine.
That is just fine with me. Next up, we'll have comments from visitors. First, are there any members of the audience who'd like to address the council on any agenda item? Hearing none. General visitor comments. Is there any member of the audience who would like to address the council on any agenda item whatsoever? Again, we have none. We will move on to the public hearing. Rules for a public hearing are available on page 10 of the packet. Generally, a public hearing will be conducted first, a presentation from staff, applicant's presentation if there is one, followed by a public comment period. Today we'll be discussing MnDOT project to improve Highway 169 intersections with Highways 22 and 99.
And Madam Mayor, the city does not have a city staff report, but our friends from DOT are here to talk about the project as it's currently envisioned and give a little bit of a report from the open house that was held earlier this evening in the St. Peter room here at the community center. So we'd ask Forrest Hasty, who's the project manager, to come up and give him a few minutes to talk about some of the activity. Forrest, you can certainly bring anybody that you'd like with you. We do have multiple chairs there and could add more if you wanted to.
Sure, you bet.
And,
All right.
and just for the record, we're going to say that the public hearing was called to order at 7:03.
We're supposed, not a whole lot has changed since last I talked to you guys. I think I was here just 2-ish, 3-ish months ago. Kind of did a project overview, what everything that we're doing. So Trunk Highway 22 will have 2 receiving lanes on it. Highway 169 and 22 will have 2 dual left turn lanes. The timing of that signal will change. Currently, it has what we call a protected left that transitions into a permissive left. A protected left is just that, it's a green arrow. A permissive left is a flashing yellow arrow or a green ball. And that's when the traveling public gets to make the decision on when it's safe to take a left. They're not making good decisions. And so by adding that second left turn lane, we'll be able to time that signal differently. We'll have the green arrow, that protected left, cycled twice per cycle. And that should mitigate a lot of those T-bone crashes that we're seeing out in the intersection. You'll still see rear-end crashes. We see rear-end crashes at signals often as people don't pay attention as they come to slow down. But there's a big difference between a rear-end crash and a right-angle crash or a T-bone crash. In a rear-end crash, you have your trunk or your engine to protect you. And in a right-angle crash, you have your door. And so that's when we see those types of injuries or even worse. So that's where the protected left comes from. At 99, you're going to see an R-cut, much like we have on the north side of St. Peter. So we just a little bit bigger. A few main reasons there. Crashes are above the statewide average, so they are concerning. This should cause a reduction in crashes. There's also concern about capacity and delay. Currently today, as people take a left onto 169 to go north, that median area can only hold 1 or 2 vehicles. And so now people will cross both southbound lanes and enter into a left turn lane and come around and be able to navigate just the northbound traffic. And in that turn lane's 575 feet long, so it can hold a lot more cars than the median can today. We also are closing Wabasha. That's a presentation we did last time, kind of showing the reduction in crashes we see anytime we reduce access. The project will be let in November, and so that's when we actually open bids and we actually pick our contractor. We'll have a couple more open houses between now and then. We'll do one this summer, and we'll encompass 3, 4, or 5 projects because we got a lot going on around St. Peter. So it'll be more than just me. Probably have a couple other project managers with me, and a lot of layouts. This project will start construction in probably March. We gotta remove about 4 trees, and we have to remove trees before March 31st because of the long-eared bat, a protected species. You won't actually see construction work start until May, and it'll take about 5 months to complete the project. It'll be done in 3 stages. Trunk Highway 22 will be closed for the entirety of the project. 169 will have 1 lane in each direction open the entire time, though it will change. And then Highway 99 will be closed for 1 of the stages. So a few months where that intersection will be closed. Any questions on this one? Yeah.
Well, I think most of this council, we received an email from a citizen about, well, it was the detour at 99, and, well, 169 and Broadway, and particularly like more pedestrian crossing on Front Street on 99. Is there going to be any additional flashing or anything done there with increased traffic there at all, or
Permanently or during construction?
just during construction?
Sure. We did decide to do a temp signal at L. So before you go cross over, we didn't actually meet warrants. So we didn't install it because of traffic. We thought it would be viewed better by businesses because people actually have to stop and they'll have that opportunity to take a left and go to Arby's and the gas station, things like that.
Oh, no, this is actually on the north side of town, at Broadway and 169 when you turn, I guess it would be going east on 99.
Oh, sure. So not part of this project then.
Well, it's part of the detour on this project.
Part of the detour.
Yeah, it's part of the detour on this project.
It is for the 22 detour.
Yeah, the 22 detour. Basically, the concern was, there's a crossing at essentially Front Street and 99,
And I'm guess-
basically by Jake's Pizza.
And we still have like push buttons at that signal.
Well, the signal itself there might be, but not at Front Street. And the citizens' concern was people crossing there might run into,
Never have an opportunity?
well,
Is it-
with the increased traffic that. So the question was there going to be any additional signaling or anything?
I don't think we have anything planned right now. That's why we do these open houses and talk to you guys. So I can go back and talk with my traffic staff. Unfortunately, he had to leave. He came to the open house.
Yeah.
But I can go get a response from him and email that to Todd.
And I think probably more, well, he brought up that one, I think that Broadway and 169, Broadway and 169, that might be more impacted than Front Street. I don't think there's going to be a lot, but I think looking at the timing of that there's going to be more pedestrian traffic there, might be.
And there continues to be at those stoplights, so there's not a stoplight condition on Front Street and Broadway next to the bridge.
Yep.
There's not. But at Broadway, there's the push button stop condition. And I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head the timing for that. My recollection is 24 seconds, but I could be wrong about that. I cross it every once in a while, so I remember seeing it. And so maybe the question is, will that change as a part of this for us?
Is Front Street pretty far from?
No, Front Street's just a block off.
A block
And that's
east.
why we'd probably encourage people to go to the signal and cross
To
at the
Broadway.
signal.
Okay.
I'm guessing that'll be the response from our traffic folks.
I just want to make sure we have a chance for public comment. I don't
Yeah.
see any members of the public here, but we will have a chance to follow up with Forrest in item A under new business, if that's all right with everybody. I don't see any members of the public here, but if there are any, now would be the time to make comment to the council. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move us along to approval of the consent agenda. I've got to close the hearing. Thank you, Barbara. It is 7:11. The consent agenda is begins on page 11 and concludes with the resolution on page 26. The consent agenda includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $10,000. Vendor JWC Environmental for a south lift grinder. The following employee appointments at the position and wage rate indicated within the packet with one correction, which I'll read when I get to that individual. The individuals are Kevin Murphy, Madison Moore, Mia Hansen, Josephine Webush, Jagger Kennedy, Frank Drzinski, and Keith Bentz. There's a correction to the wage rate. It's listed at $13.75 and should be $12.75. Otherwise, the wages listed in the packet are listed in the packet for your reference. The following individuals are appointed to advisory boards for the terms and boards indicated in the packet: Ayan Omar, Marco Cabrera-Gesrick, and Sandy Miller. And the following business license application is approved contingent upon payment of the license in compliance with city code regulations. That's Gustavus Adolphus College, a temporary gambling license for April 28th, 2022. And the schedule of disbursements for March 24th, 2022 through April 6th, 2022. Are there any questions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Novell.
Aye. The resolution is approved. There is no unfinished business before us today. The first item of new business, we're going to go back to Forrest, about the adoption of a resolution providing the municipal consent for MnDOT Highways 169, 99, and 22 project. That begins on page 27 of the packet. I think there were a few additional questions. Carrie?
I had two, and it's related to the open house earlier. If you could provide a report on that. And then number two, kind of in reference to what Brad was talking about, an email from a business owner earlier who wasn't able to attend the public hearing. I think overall the question might have been, well, how does MnDOT think about pedestrian and bicyclist safety when there's detours and that increased traffic in that area? Sometimes we think of these detours as vehicle traffic, but this email made me think about pedestrian and bicyclist traffic. I'm curious about, I think the writer was curious about how you think about that and how the detour is planned for safety.
Sure. So the first thing, the open house went well. We were late coming here. And a lot of people walk in last minute and want to make sure that their concerns were heard. Overall, I thought we had a good amount of people. Pete? Yeah, good amount of people. I think most things were well received. People are usually concerned about the detour and how they're going to get through, what's going to be closed, and if they see 99 is going to be closed for this month to that month, they come up with a plan in their head of how they're going to get around. So that went well. Detours for pedestrians we think about a lot. Usually when it comes to what trails we actually affect with a construction project. So we can't actually rip out sidewalk without providing some sort of accommodation for pedestrians and bicyclists. So what you're going to see when we do rip out a few sections of the trail that go down to the disc golf park, we'll have a temp par, it's called, to go around it so they can still utilize the park. Some things pop up that we don't think about, like Front Street. But when you have safe crossings a block away, that's probably what we would do, is we would encourage people to use those crossings instead. The same thing came up on Trunk Highway 22, that crossing on 169, it doesn't exist. There isn't a pedestrian crossing at 22. And the reason is we don't think it should be accommodated. There's so much traffic there, 27,000 vehicles a day, that we can't get cars through successfully. And we're having 106 crashes in 10 years. That's why we'd encourage people to go down to Jefferson. People will be going slow even when there's a green light. When people have a green light at Highway 22, sometimes they're still going pretty fast. So we do think about that piece.
Is there any signage specific to pedestrians or bicyclists that they can follow during the detour?
Yeah, we put up signage for the tent power, don't we? Yeah.
Any questions?
Abby's here. She's the designer. She does all the technical stuff.
Great. Any questions that surprised you at the public hearing?
No.
Or at the open house? Just primarily the questions about the detour?
A lot of times, even after the project, I'll get, why didn't you think about this? And typically, I can show that we have. So we had a couple people ask, why are you doing roundabouts? Why aren't you doing an interchange? And so we were able to answer those questions, but we were prepared for that.
And last question, and there are additional open houses planned throughout the project?
Yeah, so for this specific project, there'll be 2 more. We'll do one this summer. I'm hoping for June. I got to work with Ann to put that together. But there's a lot of projects around St. Peter, and so we want to inform the community of all of them. So Highway 22, that project, approaching $40 million, it's going to be impactful. We got this project. We got the project on the north end of St. Peter for that half-mile reconstruct. We got another project just north of town, Robarts Creek, where we're just replacing a box. But Highway 169 will be head-to-head this summer. And so just informing people about that. And then we have future projects where we don't quite know what we're doing yet, that we'll get input on. We got Trunk Highway 22 leaving St. Peter. We got a couple different projects there that have been pushed out, I think, to 27 or 28. But it's a good time to ask people what they think we should do and what things we should address.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have a follow-up question for Todd, and lots of questions and concerns about detours. What does the city do on our end of things to make sure we're announcing detours and making people aware of what's happening?
So we have a number of ways that certainly we reach out to the community, or that the community can reach out to us. We won't have any additional open houses or activities. We'll follow DOT's good lead on that. But certainly using the hot sheet, our website, Facebook, all of those things will continue to promote the activity. Now, you guys will probably talk about it a couple more times at council meetings. We try and get the word out to make sure that people are aware of that. We typically, on the first page or the front of our website, will provide links to some of the DOT mapping and other opportunities that are there for additional information. So that goes on and off as time moves. And so those are the primary ways that we provide for opportunity. We accept calls, certainly, and generally, though, we're very good at being able to say, here's who you need to talk to at DOT. They know what they're talking about. We've had some activities with them, and so it's a great opportunity for you to engage with them.
Yeah, we'll have an interactive map on our website that'll go up tomorrow, where people can click through the different stages and actually see what's closed and how they'll get through traffic. But always, if you're getting emails and you just want to send them our way, you feel free to give them my name and number. I try to answer my phone and get back to people within a day, and emails within 2 days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Forrest? Daryl?
Sure. The blue detour through town, which is on Broadway, that's just east and west, that's just westbound 99, correct?
It is for part of the detour, but not the entire one. I think phase 2, it's all of it, right? Yep.
So 169 will be closed on phase 2?
169 will never be closed, but 99 will be closed.
Yeah, but it's just the westbound traffic on 99, that's all that's going through St. Peter per se up the west,
Sure.
the blue route, yep. And then 22, that will go up the golf course road or the rabbit road, I would imagine, will take most of 22.
Right.
Yeah, which has been done numerous times
Several
before.
times, yep.
Numerous times before, so. I have a question for you on your memo and things like that. The signal lights at Jefferson will be replaced, is that correct?
Yes.
And there'll be new signal system at 22 and 169, also a completely new signal system at Jefferson.
Correct.
Okay. Opticons on both, I hope, as they
The,
are now?
the EVP?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. The other question I had was, city roadway and drainage items, the dollar amount laid out there, the 104,000, 100% city cost. Can you explain what that is?
For just drainage?
Yeah, city road, it's the last thing on your page 404, city roadway and drainage items, 100% city, 0% state, 104,000.
Abby, can you explain some of the,
That's for Jackson Street and Wabasha Street.
Abby, if you wouldn't mind coming up, that would be great. We have the microphone there, and who you are and who you're with, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I knew I'd get you up here.
I'm Abby Rickman. I work for Alliant Engineering as a consultant for MnDOT. So that number would be for Jackson and Wabasha Street, where we're tying in the new city utilities, so the water main, sanitary sewer.
And there's a couple-
Reconstructing that
That's
road.
under sanitary and water main right there.
Well,
But then you've got another one for 104,000 on the next page.
yes, with the 104 is just like the asphalt, the aggregate to reconstruct that roadway, the curb replacement. I guess they could have went together in the,
Yeah, we just broke them out.
yeah, we broke them out, yep.
But we're not, Jefferson or Jackson doesn't connect. And Wabasha is being removed, isn't it?
Right.
Right, but we have to reconstruct a part of it to tie into the city utility systems.
Okay.
Pete, did you have anything you wanted to add about?
Abby's right where she was at. That is an extended area off of 169 to the west.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Might as well just stay.
Any other questions for Forrest or Abby? Well, thanks to the team for coming and speaking with us here in St. Peter. We greatly appreciate our partnership with MnDOT, and unless there are any other questions, we will, yeah, Emily.
Sorry, I just noticed something that I meant to ask. I was gonna just, you mentioned in your memo about landscaping, and can you tell us a little bit about what that may entail? Do you have plans that far yet?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about landscaping, we're just talking about erosion control, right? Yeah.
Right,
yep,
right.
seeding, yep.
So the
Yeah.
part where they're talking about native
It's-
plantings and things like that, that would
I see
be,
native grasses and plantings, that word native always jumps out at me. So is that sort of the plan, to use some native grasses along the?
Yes, I would
Roadside?
say, yeah, within the areas, more the roadside ditches.
Right,
But
right.
sod up in town.
Because that
That's the
mix
residence, yep.
tends to grow faster, so it'll look a little wonky until it gets mowed. But we want to establish the grass as fast as we can, so dirt doesn't get mowed in. you know.
Right, right. Well, and I understand native grass root systems are so deep, and that's probably really helpful to keep all of that together.
Mhm.
So, great, thank you. That's all I.
excellent. Well, thank you again. The resolution before us is on page 34 of the packet, approving Minnesota Department of Transportation Project SP 5211-66. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please, Barbara.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Bluesback,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thank you again. Let's see, next up on our agenda, adoption of a resolution award bid for 2022 bituminous material purchase. That is let's see, our memo is on page 35 of the packet. Hi, Pete.
How are you?
Great.
Mayor and city council members, as part of our street maintenance program, we have budgeted $183,480 for asphalt purchase. As you're aware, we put this out for bids, and we received 2 bids for this. Minnesota Paving and Materials and WW Blacktopping, both are outside of St. Peter. Minnesota Paving is located about 3 to 4 miles south on Highway 22. Blacktopping is located in the Mankato area. Both bids came in relatively close. And we do bid this on a pickup basis, so we have to go to the plant to pick up the materials, and that is the price that they provided. We're requesting that Minnesota Paving and Materials be authorized because it is cheaper for us to pick the materials up there and haul it back to St. Peter. We have made adjustments in the quantities that we asked for. Our budget and plan included 1,400 tons of half-inch wear, 1,500 tons of three-quarter-inch wear, and then some three-quarter base. We had about 500 tons, and then a little bit of sand mix. So we've made adjustments on page 36 to the quantities that we would like to purchase. And so that'll adjust a little bit with the projects that we've planned. And we're asking that you approve the resolution on page 37 that authorizes Minnesota Paving and Materials to supply the material.
Thanks. Any questions for Pete? Daryl?
Is this material over and above what you're putting on 4th Street?
Yes.
This is like patching materials, isn't it?
4th Street isn't, let me clarify that. 4th Street is in this quantity.
It's in this quantity?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
This includes full depth and full street replacement.
Brad?
Actually, more of just a procedural question, because if I'm wondering, I'm guessing sometimes people watching might be wondering, what's the difference between like an item on the consent agenda that was over $10,000 and something like this? Why would this not be on the consent agenda?
This was a formal bid over $50,000, and according to our purchasing policy that is set by the city council, that's how we process those. We have a certain advertising and bid opening process, and then come back for formal approval.
Great, thanks for the explanation.
Todd?
Madam Mayor, I'll just mention, has Pete addressed, but just to provide clarification, we will not spend exactly $480 on this. It's based on quantity, and so just to be clear, when we establish this budget that's approved as a part of the general fund budget, we've got to give some room to make all these things work out. So just want to be clear about how that works. We're not able to measure it out that way.
Any further questions? Hearing none, we are considering the resolution before us on page 37 of the packet. It's a resolution awarding the bid for 2020 bituminous materials purchase. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Forrest.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks, Pete. Next up, we are considering adoption of a resolution providing for corrective action on a 2025 request for vacation of a portion of North 3rd Street right-of-way. That is beginning with the memo beginning on page 38 of the packet.
Mayor and members, I think the memo provides good clarity as to what we're trying to do. This is a correction from 2005. I think if you look on page 39, it explains it best. And so it was clearly the intent of the council to vacate this entire property. We have found out since that there was a slight error within the property description. It really relates to some area that was in the town of Traverse and some that was in the Traverse subdivision. Traverse to Sioux, yeah. And so you'll see what we're trying to do here. Jim has reviewed this very carefully. Normally we'd have a hearing for these kind of activities, but since there was a hearing at that time, there's not one required. And it's very clear the council at that time intended to provide for a vacation. That's what the request was, for a vacation of this entire property. Jim, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, the thing was that the petition was to do it all from the south edge of Nickel Street to the cul-de-sac that's now part of the 3rd Street extension. The petition was clear, the property owners approved it, and actually a lot of the property owners were in fact in the plat of Traverse to Sioux, and that's what they asked for. So it was an oversight on our part, and now it's a correction because that was what the petition asked for.
Any questions? I mean, I'm assuming we've been acting as if this happened since 2005, and so it's not going to be a surprise to...
That's where
Anybody?
I think it used to be Waste Management property was, and they're using it. It doesn't appear to be a road there now. It never did appear to be a road there.
Well, hearing no questions on this matter, we have the resolution before us on page 41 of the packet, correcting City of St. Peter Resolution Number 2005-81. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Brunsack,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ring.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution authorizing execution of lease services agreements with Minnesota River Valley Transit. That's MRVT to most of us. That begins on page 43 of your packet.
Mayor and members, this is mine. We did have great discussion at your workshop just last Monday related to this. As you know, this is primarily driven by request from the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Office of Transit, to provide for ending dates within agreements that we already have in place. Let me provide one exception to that, but that's really what's driving this discussion. As you know, the City of St. Peter has been the lead agency relative to this joint powers agreement, and that continues in place as a part of these agreements. Frankly, it's been a matter of convenience for the city administrator to have you look at this before MRVT. LeSueur hopefully will be looking at the one agreement that is parallel. MRVT leases space from the city of LeSueur at one of their emergency services buildings. The three agreements that are a part of this resolution include the lease, which is the office space and common area space within the City of St. Peter City Hall at 227 South Front Street, and the garage space that, well, you see the big doors when you park in our parking lot there on the south side of the City Hall building. The second agreement relates to, and this is kind of the one exception, we have not had to have an agreement in the past relative to mechanic and repairs. But they're asking that we have one. This would be the first of this sort. This is not changing our practice relative to how this is handled with MRVT. We have mechanic and shop facilities, which you saw on the tour, well, a couple of weeks ago now. Maybe it's a week ago, 3 weeks ago. Can't remember, 3 weeks ago, I guess. And so our goal would be to continue to provide that service in the same method. As you know, our mechanic provides 80 to 90% of the service on the transit vehicles and the buses that we have. There are some things that we ship out, but this establishes the process for that and the amount of reimbursement. This is increasing the amount of reimbursement as the contract goes out a couple of years. Before, we've been at $50. This supposes a $75 charge. That's a great deal for MRVT and a very positive deal for the City of St. Peter, and allows us some capital room to purchase tire changers and other things that we've talked about in the past that are of value not only to MRVT, but to the City of St. Peter operations. The third agreement used to be called Finance. And when we entered the Joint Powers Agreement in 2016, starting in January of 2017, this agreement actually was held by LeSueur, and they provided the financial support for MRVT. That changed about a year later, and so we do everything from the financing to our financial reporting, writing checks, HR, all the management support, all of those things for MRVT. And so that agreement has been expanded to more clearly articulate not really an expanded role, but better articulate the role that we've been in really since the start of 2017. And those are the three primary agreements. Again, my goal is to solicit your input, and hopefully you can approve and move forward, at which time this would be provided to MRVT at their next meeting, which is in May. Happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of stuff, but happy to answer questions.
Questions for Todd?
Have you had any
No,
have you had
Daryl.
any correspondence with the city of LeSueur on this or anything, or?
Yeah, I have. I've actually talked with the interim city administrator, their current finance director, about this. And so, frankly, Councilmember Pettis, he's just got into that seat and he's trying to figure out how to make all this stuff go. But they were not concerned, and he was good with the change in lease payments over the term. So we did have that discussion. And so he feels good about that. And so I would anticipate no substantial issues with the LeSueur City Council.
And this will be brought before the transit board in May then?
That's my plan, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing no further questions, the resolution before us on page 56 calls for authorization of authorizing execution of a lease of space, administrative services, and mechanic services agreements with Minnesota River Valley Transit. Is there a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All right, call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember DeBosse,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ring,
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfeld.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving modifications to Community Development Director position description. Todd?
Mayor members, this is in your packet. As you know, it's our practice that as we have openings in positions, that we do a review of the job description. And so this is, we kind of jumped ahead.
Jumped
but
ahead there, yeah.
I
Oh,
can
yeah.
keep going, or we can go back, but I'm happy
Yeah.
to go with the flow. The mayor dictates the
Oh,
flow.
goodness.
Let me
Which-
keep going.
Let's keep going with this one and then we'll go back.
I was on a roll.
Yeah.
So we'll keep going. So anyway, it's our regular practice when we have openings in these positions is to do a review of the job description. As you know, this is a department head job description. And there are four, or now the proposal is 5 primary areas of influence or tasks that are a part of this job description. You'll notice there are a few changes. Most of them relate to those 4 or 5, or more clearly articulating those. There are some changes within the minimum qualifications and desired qualifications. Nothing really has been eliminated, but we've had a few things shift from minimum to desired, or be bifurcated between minimum and desired. Let me talk about the 4 or 5 things. Those 4 or 5 things include planning and zoning activities, land use, most communities where building inspection falls under community development. So that would be an addition here. It's not that we need a community development director that knows the building code, but we need certainly someone to supervise that area. And based on how we're physically set up and how our structure, organizational structure works, from my perspective, that's a more consistent, practical approach to the organizational structure, which would be different. Over the last couple of years, we've been in interim on building official. And so as some of you may recall, or frankly, maybe none of you, previous councils might recall me talking about this change in the past, but not making a change due to the personnel and where we're at relative to personnel. So again, this information is included in your packet. My hope would be that you could approve the job description. That then is the signal for us to start in the recruitment process. And if you want me to talk a little bit about that, I can, although this isn't approval of that process. This is really an approval of the job description. At your workshop, we did talk about the process, and I think had a really good discussion about that. And you did provide a couple of thoughts about changes within the job description that have been incorporated into it. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here so I can be on the same page with you. The job description really starts on page 61 and follows through. I think it's important to note that there's a lot that goes into this position, and my goal relative to this is to, again, articulate very clearly where we're at. I don't, other than the building section, consider any of the changes that are in here as being major changes to how we might move forward with this position. Again, other than that building portion. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Todd? Daryl?
With the change in bringing the building officials in, will you be changing the pay equity points or having it reclassified for pay equity?
Not for this position, because I think the pay equity points are in line with really the assumption that had been in place. As some of you may know, we're in a job match for points related to the state. And so I think this still falls in line with where that's at. This is one of the top 4 or 5 pointed positions within the city. And so I think it's at least very, very near the most appropriate spot for it to be, certainly within the range.
Thank you.
Other questions for Todd? I just want to say thanks for the discussion at our workshop and for incorporating some of the changes that we had discussed. I think it looks good to me.
Thank you. Again, with the passage, the resolution to approve this is on page 64. As you move forward, if you approve this, this will then trigger the recruitment process to start, again, which we had a lot of discussion on.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, the resolution is on page 64, adopting an updated position description for Community Development Director. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barbara.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Rutland,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Do you want to move on to the water superintendent position or go back to Market Fest?
I'm happy to go back to Market Fest, and we'll let Pete get warmed up for the water.
That sounds great. Yes.
If I may, Mayor, since this is the first department head that we've really had open since I've been on the council, what's the process for filling this position? You'll obviously advertise for it, rate applications. Is the council or the mayor involved in this recruitment or in this interview process, or how is it handled with the city?
Yes, so this is what might be considered a front of house position. And so it's certainly the goal and the past practice for those types of positions at the department head level to have council input. So you'll get some additional information, but really we'll ask you to participate in a interview process. Overall, this will include advertising, position profile. We have a number of places where we'll go. We'll make a bunch of phone calls encouraging people to apply. Hopefully draw a good pool for you. There'll be a number of different opportunities, not just for the council to participate, but the community overall to participate. And we'll invite folks from the chamber and the community, St. Peter Development Corporation, the ambassadors. I'm trying to think of other groups, but we'll kind of try and cut a pretty wide swath to invite them to an opportunity to not only visit with potential candidates, but a feedback loop opportunity. With the council, there'll be a very specific interview opportunity, and you'll provide input and feedback. Ultimately, it's my responsibility to make a recommendation to you as to who to hire. But I think we'll have a very, we've done really well with this process in the past, and I think that will continue in this process. So if people have other questions, please let me know in the community. As soon as we have everything kind of tied down related to dates, we'll make sure to get dates and times on your calendar for your direct participation.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for.
All right, we're going to go back on the agenda to the adoption of a resolution approving a request for city assistance for Market Fest. That begins on page 57 of the packet.
Mayor members, this one is mine as well. I do want to tell you that if you look very carefully within the packet, you'll see what appears to be a discrepancy from the letter that they sent us to what's included within the body of the resolution. So let me talk about that discrepancy first, and then talk about kind of the overall and what's going on here. So the discrepancy is that for those of you that have been involved in this in the past or paid attention, they really covered 20 plus weeks, I think it was 24 weeks of summer. So every Saturday there would be a Market Fest event downtown St. Peter, and that's what their letter articulates this time. However, in my additional discussion with the president and that group, they have actually now indicated very clearly, I didn't ask them to send a new letter nor did they offer, but they would like to do second and fourth weekends. And so what you see as a part of the resolution under number 1 are the accurate dates for that. I also believe there's one date, one Saturday in August, that they're not going to have it on the regular second or fourth Saturday. So there's only one Saturday in August. So I think just to provide clarification for that, why this might be slightly different. As you go to the resolution, the body of the agreement, you'll see that this is no different really than Market Fest previously, looking to do Saturdays, again, that every other Saturday between the hours of 8 and 5. Under item number 2, they're required to provide at least $1.5 million of insurance, with the city listed as an additional insured. We also provide electricity for this event. Some of you may know that there's the electrical boxes. I think we still call it the festoon circuit or something fancy like that. So that'll be turned on for vendors to be able to utilize that. The group has been organized in the past whenever we've had concerns about access, space width on the sidewalk from the building to where the vendors might be. They've been very good to address that. We want to make sure that that continues, so they've been cooperative in those events. And I think it's worked out fairly well. One other item that I want to point out in the discussion that I had with the president is that we want to ensure that although we're providing them access to the sidewalks there, that again, number 1, they're maintaining the distance, and number 2, they're only allowing vendors to be located with participating businesses. So if you have a business that's downtown and you are not participating in Market Fest, there will not be placed a vendor in front of your business. And so we've worked very diligently, and they've done a good job with that, and that's, the intent is to continue to carry through with that. Answer questions, but the resolution's on page 59.
Sure. Any questions for Todd? Emily?
Yeah, first, I just think this is great opportunity for our businesses and the customers that it brings to our downtown. I just wanted to make sure, double check on number 2 in the resolution. It lists October 15th and 22nd. I wanted to make sure that wasn't a mistake, since that's a second and third, or the wrong. October 15th was my question. Shouldn't it be the 7th? Or the 8th, I mean?
Let me do this. If you'll give us some latitude relative to that resolution, if that's significant, then you shouldn't pass the resolution tonight. But if you're okay for
It's
me
not-
to double check,
I wanted to make sure it wasn't like, it has to be exactly this, or we have to come back and do a correction later, so.
yeah, I think we should be okay. I'll go back and we'll double check that correspondence, but I believe that the resolution is right.
Okay,
I know that doesn't match second and fourth, but
that's fine, that's fine.
Any other questions regarding the resolution? Brad?
I actually had a question along that same vein, because it only has August 27th. It doesn't have August 13th in there, so is that also similar?
yeah, I think there is one
just-
Saturday that they
sorry.
were not intending to have it in August,
Okay.
off the pattern.
Oh, maybe the fair?
Fair.
Oh,
Oh,
that
fair
may be the
weekend.
fair.
I didn't ask
Yeah.
why.
Yeah,
Fair weekend.
that seems likely.
That makes
Yep,
sense.
Carrie?
This is the first resolution I've encountered in my short time here that had a contingency. Is there any risk associated with contingencies? Is there a reason we wouldn't wait to approve to receive that certificate of insurance, or is it just?
This is how we generally handle certificates of insurance, that they come much closer to the jump of the event.
I see.
So this is not unusual.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions for Todd, the resolution on page 59 is before us, approving city assistance for Market Fest St. Peter. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rank?
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. The resolution is approved. All right. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving modifications to Water Resources Superintendent position description. Pete?
Mayor and members, as you guys are aware, we have an opening at Public Works in one of our 3 critical leadership positions, our Water Resources Superintendent position. And based on our conversation last week, we've made some modifications to the minimum qualifications and desirable qualifications that would get us the type of applicant that we're looking for. As you can tell in the minimum qualifications, we do address certification in both water and wastewater, plus have some experience in a class of plant of similar size that St. Peter has. Where we make a larger discrepancy or difference would be the desirable qualifications. We have added some areas in there that would give us a person that has led a utility system with 3 or more employees for 3 or more years. Something that we need a little bit of background in, plus somebody that has code background and work with, and demonstrated ability to work with engineering and construction management. The resolution on page 71 describes a little bit about the changes that we have made, and I'm available for questions if there are any.
Questions for Pete? All right, seeing none, resolution on page 71, adopting an updated position description for Water Resources Superintendent. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rank?
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, we have adoption of a resolution approving a 2020 equipment certificate purchase for a tandem truck. Pete?
And equipment certificate purchases come back to the city council for approval. As we have talked about in our budget process and equipment certificate process, we're here tonight to ask you to approve two things. One would be the purchase of a 2023 Western Star chassis from Boyer Trucks in the amount of $141,724.13, and attachments from Towmaster of Litchfield in the amount of $148,346. We have budgeted $250,000 in the equipment certificate for this purchase. When we did start the application process to look at equipment, we were fairly close, and as you guys can see, we're going to be north of that, about $46,000. We have a used vehicle, Unit 44, which is a 1994 Tandem truck. Might have been one of the first ones that we purchased that were the dual axle tandem trucks. And so this thing has been around almost as long as I have, so it's ready to go. What we'll do is once council approves this, and if council approves this, what we will do is place the order with Western Star. We'll get the chassis in. We'll notify Towmaster of Litchfield that we've made the purchase of the chassis and try to get those arrangements going. We will declare Unit 44 surplus at a later date because we need to have use of that piece of equipment until such time it's deliverable for us. There should be a resolution on page 75 that authorizes both of those purchases.
You referenced this in the memo, but for people watching at home, there is a reason that the city is recommending, or that staff is recommending the more expensive option in this case.
Correct. As we did use the state bid process, we have used Mack Truck in the past, and we have also used Western Star in the past for a variety of things. The difference was about $500, and we have had a lot better success and know the history of Western Star to be just a slightly better vehicle.
Any questions for Pete? Resolution on page 75, authorizing a 2022 equipment certificate purchase for a 2023 Western Star tandem truck with attachments. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you
Pete.
very
Thank you, sir.
All right, our next step is the adoption of a resolution calling for executive sessions. That resolution is on page 76 of the packet.
Mayor and members, if I can, the resolution is really for two closed sessions. One relates to streets negotiations and parks, and then one relates to dispatchers or communication technicians. My belief is that we'll be able to come back into a regular session at the end, and I believe we'll be recommending action to the city council at that time, and then complete the rest of your meeting.
Any questions for Todd about this resolution? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. And so we will adjourn to closed session. The time is 7:54 p.m. and we will return to open session
When we're done?
when we are done.
Yeah.
We are returning to open session. The time is 8:21 on April 11th. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter. We are going to move on to adoption of a resolution. It's on page 76B, approving contract by and between the city of St. Peter and International Union of Operating Engineers Local 70 AFL-CIO Parks for calendar years 2020 and 2023.
Mayor and members, information is included as the mayor indicated. Let me hit on some of the most, what I think are the most salient points related to the modification to the contract for those 2 years. First of all, it's a 2-year contract. In the first year of the contract, which is 2022, again, these would be retroactive to January 1st, but that would be a 3% wage increase plus $1 per hour across the board for all job descriptions within this bargaining unit. In the second year, which is the 2023 year, there would be a 3% increase for the 2023 year. Modification to callback provisions, really simplifying and modifying how that works is a part of this as well, and I talked about that previously and is articulated in either Section 12 or Section 13 of those contracts. I don't know that it would have any substantial impact on our operation, but certainly something simplifying would be good. We've had some struggles with this contract provision in the past. And then technical changes related to separation of non-related articles and names and dates and those type of things are updated as a part of this contract. The Parks unit has voted on this in summary, and so they are in agreement with what's proposed to you. And the resolution that I'm recommending is on page 76B.
Any questions for Todd? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Our next resolution calls for adoption of approval of execution of a contract with Law Enforcement Labor Services Local Number 241, Communication Technicians, page 76C of the packet.
Mayor and members, it is listed on the page that the mayor indicated. The most salient points in this contract are a 2-year agreement. In the first year of the agreement, which would start on January 1st, 2022, it's 3% plus $1 per hour for all members, all classifications within the contract. For the 2023 year, it would be 3% plus $1 per hour for everyone. There's some cleanup language or cleaning up of language related to fair share and health insurance, but nothing that I would view as being policy-driven or substantial, just really cleaning up. And then, of course, modification of names if necessary, dates, and any other typos or errors that we might find that are non-policy-driven. And that information was passed out to you, and the resolution that staff is recommending is on page 76D.
Any questions for Todd? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the resolution on page 76D approving this contract. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Barb.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We will move on to reports. The first report is from me, is proclamation related to Arbor Day. Whereas Minnesota's forest treasures are a significant attraction to early settlers because of their usefulness and beauty and beautiful environment they protected, and whereas trees are an increasingly vital resource in Minnesota, enriching our lives by purifying air and water, helping to conserve soil and energy, serving as recreational settings, providing habitat for wildlife of all kinds, and making our cities more livable. And whereas Arbor Day was founded on April 10th, 1872 by J. Sterling Morton at Nebraska City, Nebraska, and whereas in 1876, Minnesota became the 4th state to adopt Arbor Day, and whereas the citizens of St. Peter have proudly participated in the celebration of Arbor Day and Arbor Month for many years, now, therefore, I, Shannon A. Noel, Mayor of the City of St. Peter, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the city and encourage citizens to participate in tree planting activities at their homes and businesses. In witness hereof. So, thanks to the City of St. Peter for valuing trees and to our city staff for managing our urban forest. It is a wonderful thing to proclaim.
Mayor Noel, may I just thank you for doing this as a former Nebraskan.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure that this date and name was on a bunch of little quizzes growing up. And so this just sparked some memories for me, but no, I appreciate it.
You're going back to Nebraska history
That's
class.
right.
The only thing I wanted to remark on was that I see the Masons shelter. Looks like that's going up in Minnesota Square Park. It's wonderful to see. So many questions about that over the last year or so. Yep, excited to see that happening. So, next up, reports from our city administrator.
Mayor, members, I just have a few reports. First of all is a report on the Board of Appeal and Equalization. That meeting is scheduled for April 19th at 6 o'clock, and so it's a meeting that the city council participates in. If you have any questions, please let us know. Certainly you'll receive some information from county staff about this very important meeting moving forward. Again, April 19th at 6 o'clock.
If I may, Todd.
Yeah.
Do people have to call for appointments on that, or is it they just show up?
They prefer that people call for an appointment. I can tell you that my practical experience with this is that many times folks are able to be satisfied without coming to an evening meeting, and so it's really worth their while to communicate with the assessor's office in advance. But I don't believe we've restricted or they've restricted folks from attending or just showing up. Typically, there's no action taken at that meeting by the council other than to hear and provide direction to the county staff. Typically, the meeting following is when a recommendation comes back from county staff based on who appeals, classifications, all those types of things.
No further questions? Oh, Carrie.
Todd, in your State of the City, you mentioned opening up either yesterday or today. I was at Minnesota Square Park and a large daycare group was rejoicing at that news. So that's as of yesterday or today?
Let me defer to Pete. Our policy is typically May 1st that we assure being open. Other than that, it's dependent on weather. So Pete, you might have better information than I have.
We are in the process of trying to get a few places open because we do have activities going on in the park with the lack of snow. So we have put some heaters in there trying to make things work to accommodate groups. So hopefully everything will be opened up, and if it is not, it's probably because we've tried to minimize the activity there.
Yeah, potential damage is a concern for us because these facilities are not heated. And so I think how we would put it is that they're not really guaranteed to be open
Right.
until May 1st, but there are occasions that they have been made available.
Yep.
And on the website, it says that does it say that, or it says that they're open as of, I think, April 10th on the website?
We
I don't
started
know.
our service, that's probably why it's
I
stated
see,
that way,
okay.
but we're trying to make it work wherever we can.
Yeah, so it will
Thank
be a
you
little
for
hit and
doing
miss
that.
for a while.
You made a lot of little kids happy today.
tried.
at the park.
I think I saw those little kids crossing the street at about lunchtime today.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I have two other items too, if I can. The first one that I have is just to make mention that we've had a lot of communication related to when does the sales tax go into effect? Of course, the community voted on that, and that'll be here on July 1st. We had some correspondence from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, and as you know, we have to work through them to make this effective. And they indicated late on Friday to us that information will be flowing out to businesses from the Minnesota Department of Revenue that will explain all this and provide information within the next week or two. So folks should be watching for that as it moves forward. Again, the tax would start July 1st. The last one I have is just to remind the council members and the community overall that bids for the fire station will be opened on Thursday at 3 o'clock. So you're certainly welcome to attend. It'll also be on a go-to. For some people, it's very exciting. For some people, it's much akin to watching paint dry. But it is really important information, and certainly there'll be additional information that comes back to the city council over the next couple of weeks on this project. A long discussion with the construction managers over the last week or two, and they feel very good about the amount of interest that they've heard from so far, and so we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Todd. Brad?
Just wanted, as I told Todd and the mayor earlier, go over on Saturday. Recharge Mankato hosted an event that the mayor and I attended. The highlight of it was test driving electric vehicles, but The true emphasis and what Recharge Mankato, which actually has grown from Mankato into a national movement, is actually accessibility. Accessibility for these cars to be, recharged. Pleasantly, when the mayor and I indicated we were from St. Peter, they lit up. It's rather exciting that St. Peter not only has the Tesla stations, but the investment we made in the chargers. They bring up the ones at the co-op. I kind of feel bad about the ones behind River Rock because they always seem forgotten. But St. Peter is looked at as a place that they are accessible. One of the things brought up by some of the participants, though, is figuring out when they do purchase an electric vehicle, how do they get a charging station set up in their garage? And I think that's something we ourselves can look at, and as far as not necessarily subsidizing it, but a lot of questions is would be for our electric superintendent is how do we go about getting this set up? Who could we potentially talk to? But I thought it was a great event, and it was great to hear positive feedback on St. Peter and what we've done to make ourselves more receptive to electric vehicles and their ability to recharge here. So.
I don't really have anything else to add, but I was I had the same, pleasant response as Brad did. People seemed very favorably disposed to St. Peter and really happy about what we offer here in St. Peter relative to electronic vehicles.
Madam Mayor, I don't have any other reports.
All right. If there is nothing further, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
I feel like we hear it, and now got people said. It just seems like it's the end of a service. It should be there. Yeah. One kid, the kid that has the problems is in Italy somewhere.